having both of these things in the same bill is problematic. We'll get weaker results for both. I need to leave some time for the honourable member to reply, so 30 seconds, please. I'll be brief, Madam Speaker. Well, I want to focus on what we can do before, what we can do on prevention. I've worked with community organizations in my riding. They're trying to prevent crime, and they're doing everything they can. I really think that this bill should be split in two in order to help them.
Statements by members. Déclaration des députés. L'honorable député de Winnipeg Nord.
There we go. Mabuhay, Madam Speaker. Magandang hapon po sa lahat. June is the month in which we celebrate and recognize the importance of Filipino-Canadian heritage, Madam Speaker. It is also the month in which the country of the Philippines celebrates independence, 124 years. I'm sure if we were to canvass the House, Madam Speaker, what you'll find is a general consensus. The contributions of our Filipino heritage community is second to no other as it continues to grow 1 million strong, Madam Speaker. So it's with great pleasure that I encourage all members, rural, urban, from all sides, to recognize the important role that our community of our Filipino heritage community does every day of the year. And a special shout out to my ate Clarita for the beautiful suit jacket, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Regina Wascana.
Madam Speaker, the Canadian Football League regular season kicks off tonight, and the Saskatchewan Roughriders home opener is this Saturday at Mosaic Stadium in Regina. This year, the green and white will be victorious in all regions of the country, including Atlantic Canada, when Wolfville, Nova Scotia hosts a game against the Toronto Argos on July 16th. Madam Speaker, it's been a tough 3 years for Rider Nation. Not only was the 2020 Grey Cup game in Regina cancelled due to the pandemic, but the 2019 and 2021 Grey Cups were both won by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Shameful, Madam Speaker. But those dark times are behind us, and we're all looking forward to seeing the Riders win the Grey Cup on home turf in Regina this November 20th. If anyone is still thinking about their fall vacation plans, the Grey Cup festivities in Regina this November are not to be missed. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Go Riders, and have a great season.
The honourable member for Oakville North Burlington.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. June 18th will be a big day in Oakville North Burlington, celebrating the arts, lacrosse, and a renowned sports artist. On this special day, the Toronto Rock Athletic Centre in Oakville will host the Rob McDougall Memorial Celebrity Classic and Lacrosse Day in honour of Rob McDougall, while raising funds and awareness for Kids Sport Ontario. Rob was an artist, athlete, coach, and leader who was known for his paintings of sports legends. He loved lacrosse and designed logos for teams like the Oakville HoC, Oakville Buzz, Burlington Chiefs, and the Toronto Rock. Not only that, but he revitalized lacrosse in our community, and there are not many players who were not touched by him. Rob's leadership in the arts and in sports has not gone unnoticed. I enthusiastically encourage everyone to support this event, whether attending, donating, or spreading the word in celebration of Rob McDougall and Canadian sports. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This week is the end of my friend Sylvain Gaudreau's time in politics at the National Assembly as MNA for Jonquière. He was a history professor elected in 2007, and he has played many roles in the parliament. He was super minister in the Marois government from 2012 to 2014 and acting leader of the Parti Québécois, but he himself would say that what he cared about the most was being an MNA. The people of Jonquière have trusted him for more than 15 years, and that's because they recognize that he is a humble, fair, and committed person. And he had a method for succeeding in politics, the Sylvain method, which means always elevating the debate and always staying positive. That is the mark of a great politician and statesman. He did a great deal for the independence movement. He moved Quebec forward. I will always remember his courage and conviction. He cared deeply about the idea of a fair energy transition towards an independent Quebec. Thank you, Sylvain, and I am wishing you all the best.
L'honorable député.
The honorable member for Outremont. Mr. Speaker, it's now been more than 100 days since the Russian invasion. Since then, the Ukrainian people has been suffering a massacre. In December, 2 months before the invasion, I proposed that the Foreign Affairs Committee study the situation in Ukraine urgently. And our work is not over.
Our Foreign Affairs Committee heard from the Ukrainian ambassador about the horrific acts of violence, of rape, torture, and cold-blooded murder of civilians. The Ukrainian ambassador invited our committee to come to Ukraine to bear witness, which I very much hope to do, but the Conservative Party refused. What more, it is nearly 4 weeks now that the Conservatives have been filibustering the work of our committee, preventing us from hearing from witnesses and getting on with our work, Mr. Speaker. And now, just this week, the Conservative Party officially proposed to this House to drop sanctions against Russia on certain agricultural goods. It is shameful. In times of crisis, in times of war, Mr. Speaker, we must rise. We cannot obfuscate. We cannot back down. We must rise to meet the moment.
Honourable member for Dauphin, Swan River, Neepawa.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to celebrate Filipino Heritage Month. Filipino Canadians have made a tremendous contributions to the social, cultural, and economic well-being of Canada. In my province of Manitoba, the first immigrants of the Philippines arrived in the 1950s. Today, Manitoba is proudly home to one of the most vibrant populations of Filipino Canadians in the country. Canada and the Philippines have had an important and ever-growing relationship on the world stage. As the Vice Chair of the Canadian-Filipino Friendship Group, I sincerely look forward to working with all Canadians and Filipinos to advance our nation's shared interests. This morning, I was honored to join the members of the Filipino community at our flag-raising ceremony on Parliament Hill, where we celebrated the Philippines' 124th Independence Day. Mr. Speaker, I ask all Canadians from coast to coast to coast to join me in celebrating Filipino Heritage Month.
Here, here.
The honourable member for Fleetwood, Port Kells.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it would appear that this isn't only a Filipino Heritage Month, it's Filipino Heritage Day here in the House of Commons. And I join my colleagues in celebrating a community that's happily woven its way very deeply into our multicultural fabric. And celebrate is the right term. This morning we enjoyed raising the flag of the Philippines on Parliament Hill, and we enjoyed our very own, very talented Glecia from Surrey as she sang the national anthems. We've enjoyed mixing and mingling with diplomatic representatives and Filipino community leaders. In that regard, we on the West Coast and in Surrey are particularly honored to be the home of Narima de la Cruz, President of the Filipino National Congress. From the first Filipino sailors who came to our West Coast in the late 1800s and those who worked in our lumber mills and mines in the early 1900s, to the workers who settled on the prairies and founded Winnipeg's strong and robust Filipino community, we know you as friendly, hardworking, forward-looking, and a valued part of every neighborhood you're to be found. In other words, really good Canadians.
The honourable member for St. John, Rothsay.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to introduce you and all Canadians to 4 very important people. Ashley Lloyd, Manus Ryan, David Hickey, and Jeanette Arsenault. Now, Mr. Speaker, they may not be as popular and as well known as Wayne Long in the riding of St. John Rothsay, but they are equally, if not more important. They are a part of Team Long. They are a part of my constituency office and my Hill office. And Mr. Speaker, we all know as MPs that we would not be here without them. They answer the phones, they answer the emails, the social media, they schedule the meeting, they learn our programs and policies. Mr. Speaker, they are on the front lines. And on behalf of all of us, all Canadians, I want to thank them for the wonderful job they do in our constituency and our Hill offices. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Bay of Quinte.
Mr. Speaker, it is with great sadness that I speak today of the passing last week of John Smiley of Quinte West, Honorary Colonel of CFB Trenton. John was a community leader, loving husband, incredible father, and a more incredible grandfather. John and Angela Smiley operated grocery stores in Simcoe, Guelph, Brockville, and ended up as operators at Smiley's Independent in Trenton, Ontario, and John showed his true love and philanthropy to his town and region. In the 2003 blackout, when other grocers were increasing their price of batteries, John decreased his. When people needed baskets for Salvation Army, he was the first in line. He championed the local Trenton Memorial Hospital and ensured that it thrives today. He was the Honorary Colonel of 436 Squadron in Quinte West, and when he passed, he was the Honorary Colonel of CFB Trenton, cherishing every moment spent, and he wore his uniform with pride. Mr. Speaker, the Bay of Quinte mourns the loss of an incredible service person to our community, a true friend and family man. Thank you, John, to your service, to our region, and to our country, and rest in peace.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for Canada Carleton.
Mr. Speaker, one of the greatest risk factors in a violent, intimate relationship is gun ownership. Just by virtue of having a gun in the home, the lethality of intimate partner violence increases by 500%. A femicide occurs every 2.5 days in our country. It routinely follows documented incidents of intimate partner violence, and it disproportionately affects Indigenous women and women living in rural areas. Intimate partner violence and gun violence intersect, and they intersect in deadly ways. That's why Bill C-21's new red flag law is crucial. It ensures that anyone who's proven to be at risk of harming themselves or those around them will not be able to possess a firearm license. There are still too many women in this country who live in fear. These new provisions will save lives, and I hope everyone in this House will support its speedy passage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf, Jacques Cartier. Mr. Speaker, in my riding, which is in the larger Quebec City region, there are many tourist attractions, beautiful nature, and many local products. A must-see in the area is the public markets, where there are farmers, craftspeople, and devoted producers. They're always looking to provide good experiences to customers. There are so many different products, and the people are kind. It all adds up to a great time in our region. There are markets in Saint-Augustin, Deschamps-Bourgondine, Pont-Rouge, St. Raymond, St. Casimir, Canton, in Stoneham-Tewkesbury, in Saint-Gabriel-de-Valcartier, or in Sainte-Catherine-de-la-Jacques-Cartier. All of these markets are amazing, and you will discover amazing things there. I would invite all Epicureans in Canada. We are looking forward to warmly welcoming you in Portneuf, Jacques Cartier this summer.
I'm sorry? Oh, you swat. Okay, very good. The Honourable Member for Foothills.
Thunderclouds rolled over the foothills of southern Alberta, bringing much-needed and desperate rain for the grasslands of the foothills. It was a perfect backdrop for the celebration and honoring a legendary cowboy. The stories of John Ware are almost too fantastic to believe. He'd stop a steer head on, he could lift small cows, and he would break horses that others thought were unbreakable. But what's indisputable is a story of survival and perseverance. John Ware embodied the strength and resilience of Black Canadians. He overcame racism, rough frontier conditions, and slavery to build a life for himself and his family in the foothills, and became a successful and renowned rancher. A highly skilled horseman, John joined a crew that drove 1,000 head of cattle to the Rocky Mountains, where he built a life for himself. His achievements are now being honored with a plaque at the Bayou Ranch National Historic Site in the saddle barn that he helped build. I would encourage all Canadians to learn more about this incredible pioneer so the legend of John Ware lives on.
The Honourable Member for Pierrefonds-Dollard.
The Honourable Member for Pierrefonds-Dollard. Mr. Speaker, I am proud to rise today to talk about an organization which is doing incredible work for the Black community in Pierrefonds-Dollard.
The West Island Black Community Association, popularly known as WIPCA, is celebrating its 40th anniversary this month. This wonderful organization provides a wide array of services to all segments of society while also empowering Montreal's Black community. Their services include a clinic, a scholarship program, the first ever robotics expo being inaugurated this week, fitness programs, as well as security and financial literacy workshop for seniors. Je remercie WIPCA d'avoir...
I'd like to thank WIPCA for playing an essential role in the COVID-19 response and for their hard work in our community.
Thank you for making the West Island a better place. I look forward to celebrating this important milestone with you.
The Honourable Member for Windsor West.
Mr. Speaker, in the face of continued misinformation from the Prime Minister's office, yesterday's passage of Bill C-248 establishing the Ojibwe National Park was a victory for Caldwell First Nations, the City of Windsor, Essex County, and the environment.
Hear, hear.
New Democrats, Conservatives, and the Bloc Québécois and the Green Party and two courageous Liberal MPs voted to establish this historic park. I want to thank Chief Mary Duckworth and all of Caldwell First Nations for years of advocacy, Mayor Dilkins and all of City Council, Janet and Dave of Wildlands League, Unifor Environment Committee, Friends of the Rouge, Friends of Ojibwe, Essex County Field Naturalists, IRCA, thousands of residents, schools, and businesses, Wildlife Preservation Canada, Detroit River International Wildlife Refuge, Green Uma, the Audubon Society, and Save Ojibwe. These remarkable organizations and people came together and worked hand in hand to make this park a reality. We now invite members who did not vote for this park to work with us on the next steps.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagotte. Mr. Speaker, Quebec members from the Liberal and Conservative parties showed their true face yesterday. They voted against maintaining Quebec's political weight in the House of Commons. They voted against the idea of having 25% of Ottawa MPs be from the Quebec nation. Because of them, Quebec is destined to slowly fade. Having 25% of MPs from Quebec is not a new idea. It's what was proposed at Charlottetown in 1992. It was Brian Mulroney's commitment for Quebec to be able to take its place within the Canadian regime. It's what was called le beau risque, and that's what the Liberals and Conservatives have said no to. It's even worse from the Conservatives, because they are renouncing the only real Quebec heritage in their party. In 1992, the Conservatives believed protecting Quebec's political weight. The Reform Party was against it, and so now we see that the Conservative Party today is the Reform Party. That is the only space that's left for the Quebec nation within Canada. We should take good note of it.
The Honourable Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, the Chinese Communist Party continues to commit horrific acts of violence against Uyghurs and other Turkic Muslims, acts which this House has rightly recognized to constitute genocide. Action by Parliament, by the government to more effectively block products made with Uyghur forced labor, to halt complicity in organ harvesting, prevent Canadian imports from supporting this repression, and to sanction perpetrators of violence. This continues to be vitally needed. This week I was very pleased to join Senator Leo Housakos in welcoming a leader in the fight for Uyghurs and for human rights in general to Parliament, NBA star NS Cancer Freedom. Honestly, I'm not normally a big sports fan, but it was great to see the way that the convening power of celebrity can be used to constructively engage more people in an important cause. Mr. Freedom has leveraged his audience of millions to bring awareness and promote action in support of the world's most vulnerable. Uyghurs in concentration camps often cannot have their voice heard, so Mr. Freedom is using his platform to magnify their voice. I also want to recognize his important work on human rights in Turkey to defend the rights of those persecuted by the increasingly authoritarian Erdogan regime. While many stars and corporate brands only stand for racial justice when it's convenient, Freedom is always a champion on the court that matters most. Thank you for being a voice for the voiceless.
The Honourable Member for Ottawa Centre.
Well, thank you, Speaker. I'm so pleased to rise today to welcome, after 2 long years of waiting, the in-person Italian Week Ottawa celebration back in my community of Ottawa Centre. Italian Week is focused on creating exciting experiences that share Italian culture with all of us. The events scheduled this year include a film screening, master classes, children's bedtime stories, and much more. The grand finale, Speaker, will take place from June 17 to 19 along beautiful Preston Street in Little Italy in my community. I encourage everyone to join us next weekend to see live entertainment, a soccer tournament, kids' rides, opera performances, street animations, and the Ottawa bike race as we close out the week. Speaker, I would also like to take the opportunity to thank the Department of Canadian Heritage for the ongoing support they have provided to Italian Week Ottawa and to applaud the festival organizers and the board directors, Lydia Di Francesco and Gina Medalina, along with all the volunteers for their tireless efforts in planning this fantastic celebration. Happy Settimana Italiana, Ottawa.
Oral questions. Question orale.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, masks are coming off on public transit in Ontario, and they'll soon be coming off in public transit in Quebec. Provincial governments have listened to the recommendations of their public health experts, Mr. Speaker. Vaccine passports have been lifted everywhere, except to fly, to work in the federal government, or to enter the Parliament buildings. It's getting so ridiculous, Mr. Speaker, that Liberal MPs are coming to ask the Conservatives not to talk about it anymore because they're afraid that the Prime Minister isn't willing to admit the opposition is right. What's wrong? Why is the Prime Minister following political and not actual science? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, please allow me to thank Canadians for the sacrifices that they have made to get through this pandemic. It is our collective action that has gotten us through. Canada has the second lowest rate of mortality in the G7 and the lowest unemployment rate in over 50 years. It's thanks to vaccines and public health measures that we have been able to see these results. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. It's incredible, the talent that the minister has to not answer questions. What's the difference between being crammed into a subway and lining up at an airport? In the subway, people are in very close contact whether they're vaccinated or not, and public health is okay with that. In an airport, everyone must be vaccinated, must continue to wear a mask, and the Prime Minister has no science to justify that, Mr. Speaker. Does the Prime Minister consider that the public health agencies of the provinces, who are responsible for healthcare, are wrong? Every public health agency in every province, are they all wrong? Or is he the only one who's right, Mr. Speaker? Why does the Prime Minister insist on maintaining these out-of-date measures? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the incredible talent here is the talent of the Conservatives to not understand that it's thanks to public health measures, that it's thanks to vaccines, that Canada has succeeded in our fight against COVID. Mr. Speaker, if the United States had Canada's vaccination rate, they could have prevented almost 700,000 hospitalizations and 163,000 deaths. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, no concrete response for Canada. Let's talk about something concrete. As shootings multiply in Montreal, the Liberals are so eager to release criminals that they're muzzling the opposition to ram through Bill C-5, which eliminates mandatory minimum sentences. Listen to this, Mr. Speaker. My mother and I, after supper, we had to go inside and hide because of a shooting. Shot after shot after shot after shot was fired. And that's a Montreal resident who said that to the media. We're not talking about a war zone. We're talking about a neighborhood in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, Mr. Speaker. Why would the Liberals rather help criminals than reassure this Montrealer and all the people of Montreal? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, what we prefer is to take concrete measures to limit firearms in Canada. Handguns. And, Mr. Speaker, it's absurd to me to listen to these questions from Conservative members who are against the important measures, the historic measures that we are putting in place.
The Honourable Member for Barrie Innisfil.
Conservatives believe that meaningful and effective steps must be taken to end gun violence and gun crime in Canada. Canadians need to be safe, and victims of domestic violence need to be protected. While there are aspects of Bill C-21 that we can agree on, specifically on domestic violence issues, the rest of the bill falls short and will do nothing to end gun violence. Will the Liberals agree to split Bill C-21 into two bills, one to protect the victims of domestic violence, while the other aspects of the bill are reworked to offer real and effective solutions to gun crime and gun trafficking?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, speaking as a Member of Parliament for downtown Toronto, as a mother of teenagers who live in my riding, I want to say very clearly, we will never water down our measures on gun control. We know that these are essential to protect Canadians, and I just wish the members opposite would stop their posturing and would join us in saving lives.
The Honourable Member for Barrie Innisfil.
Well, divisive policies don't protect people. Fear doesn't protect people. Virtue signaling doesn't protect people. The Liberals are using U.S.-style wedge politics for their own political gain and won't keep Canadians safe, and it won't stop violence. Conservatives will be putting forward a sincere offer to split Bill C-21 so that victims of domestic violence can be protected as soon as possible. We can work together to get this done, but it's up to the Liberals. They have two options: either accept the offer to protect victims immediately, or they can reject it and continue with their divisive rhetoric and leave victims vulnerable.
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, you know what protects Canadians? What protects Canadians is banning military-style assault weapons, which have no place in our society. What prevents Canadians is limiting access to handguns. And I'll tell you what is entirely insincere. The Conservatives' fake concern for Canadians who are victims of gun violence. They could support those Canadians by supporting our legislation.
The Honourable Member for Salaberry-Surwa. Mr. Speaker, the Government of Quebec has sent all members of the Official Languages Committee a binder of amendments for Bill C-13. In that binder, Quebec explains how we can truly protect the French language. Quebec has reiterated that we must recognize the situation of French as a minority language on an Anglophone continent, and Quebec insists that the French language charter must apply to federally regulated businesses. Mr. Speaker, Quebec has unique expertise when it comes to the French language. Over 400 years of history are a testament of that. Will the Liberals, will the federal government respect Quebec's demands? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as the Prime Minister said last week, our government recognizes that we need to strengthen French in Quebec and everywhere across Canada. And our government knows that French is facing challenges in Quebec and the rest of Canada, and we need to work on that. When it comes to expertise, Mr. Speaker, it's clear that I am an Anglophone, a Ukrainianophone, but we have members from Quebec from across the country who are Francophone, and they are working with us on our policy. The Honourable Member for Salaberry-Surwa. Mr. Speaker, we've dealt with many bills here, and it's extremely unusual for Quebec to officially submit amendments for a federal bill. It's unusual because it's existential. C-13 deals with our official common and national language. And what Quebec has shown is that without these amendments, C-13 will not protect French in Quebec, but rather it'll protect a bilingualism today and an English tomorrow. Does the government realize that if there's one area, one single issue where Canada must listen to Quebec, it's when it comes to protecting the French language? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I completely agree that French in Quebec and in the rest of Canada is an existential issue. I absolutely agree with that. And if I may, as a Ukrainian Canadian, I understand today at a very personal level the importance of language and culture. But I also have to say, Mr. Speaker, that our Bill C-13 is an excellent bill which is going to protect French in Quebec and everywhere across Canada. The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to the increased cost of living, instead of proposing solutions to help people, the Liberals prefer to make comparisons, saying, at least we're better off than somewhere else. In other words, take your lumps and stop whining. But here's the reality. Workers are being forced to turn to food banks for food. Under the Liberals, the cost of housing has gone up more quickly than in any other G7 country. Meanwhile, investors are lining their pockets while families are suffering. People want solutions, not excuses. When will the Liberals act to make life more affordable for families? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we agree that affordability is very important for Canadian families, and that is why we have concrete solutions, targeted solutions, which have already put money into the pockets of Canadians. For example, with the increase in the Canada Worker Benefit. A family of 3 will receive $2,300 more this year. We have a unique $500 supplement for those who have difficulty finding housing. And there's much more than that, Mr. Speaker, but I see my time is up.
Member for Vancouver East.
While families struggle to afford groceries, rent, and gas for their cars, the Liberals shrug and say, well, things are better here than elsewhere. Since they like comparisons so much, here's one for them. Under the Liberals, the cost of a home in Canada has increased faster than any country in the G7. Canadians can't find a home they can afford, and they want solutions, not excuses. This government must act now. Will the Liberals stop with the excuses and build 500,000 units of social housing and co-op housing to help families struggling to make ends meet?
Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to co-op housing, and I did grow up in a co-op, our government in the recent budget put forward the biggest investment in co-op housing in a generation, and that is something I am very, very proud of. And I want to thank the MP for Milton for his hard work on that. When it comes to other solutions to help Canadians with affordability, let me point to a very important program, the Canada Workers Benefit, which we have increased by $9 billion over 5 years. A family of 3 this year is getting $2,300 more.
Honourable Member for Sturgeon River Parkland.
Mr. Speaker, it's disturbing that Conservatives needed to ask the police to find out that the minister's statement claiming that police recommended the government invoke the Emergencies Act was in fact false. No such recommendations were made by police. The deputy minister tried to explain the minister's claims, saying he was misunderstood. Why did the minister repeatedly fail to give Parliament accurate information, or was he just hoping he wouldn't get caught?
Good point. Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, let me quote from the testimony of Commissioner Brenda Luckie of the RCMP in front of the committee that honourable colleague is a member of. She said, and I quote, when they did come up with the measures, referring to the government, they came to us to say, would these measures be useful? Then when they were revoking, of course, they came to us and said, are you in a position that you no longer need the additional authorities? It was a consultation. That's precisely what we've said all along. It was the responsible thing to do to invoke the Emergencies Act. And if you want to be a government, you got to know how to protect Canadians, Mr. Speaker. That's what we did.
The Honourable Member for Sturgeon River Parkland.
Mr. Speaker, the minister's story keeps changing. Invoking the Emergencies Act sets a precedent for our country's history. There is no room for this government to mislead, equivocate, or to be misunderstood. Parliament was led to believe by the Minister of Public Safety that the police asked the government to invoke the Emergencies Act. But now we know that is false. Will the minister show some humility and apologize to Canadians for his inaccurate statements?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, you would think that colleague, that honourable member of this chamber, would have the humility to recognize the words that I just said were not from the government, but from the RCMP commissioner in front of the committee, which he was privy to, which he heard. He heard those words. The commissioner said that the government consulted, which is exactly what we've said all along. We sought the advice of law enforcement on the powers that they needed to restore public safety, Mr. Speaker. What we did in invoking the Emergencies Act was the responsible thing to do to protect Canadians' safety.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Last night at Health Committee, the President of PHAC confirmed that the Prime Minister's continued mandates are driven by political science. He said there were no metrics to justify these mandates and no metrics that can be met to lift them. And while infectious disease experts and now PHAC are both pointing to politics as the reason for federal mandates, officials are dropping the last of the provincial mandates. When will the Prime Minister and this government drop the politics and end the mandates?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Thank
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I was in that meeting. I thank my honourable colleague for the collaboration on the Health Committee. Look, all Canadians are sick and tired of COVID-19. We all agree that, but we want it to go away, but just wishing it away is not going to make it happen. So over the past few months, we've made some amendments, we've made some changes, and we continue to see more deaths from COVID-19. In fact, over 1,700 deaths from COVID-19 in May alone. The most important thing that we can do to get through this pandemic is consider getting vaccinated. Mr. Speaker, we'll continue to be informed by science, not the political games of the Conservative opposition.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
The parliamentary secretary talks about political games. He's talking about vaccines. Their government's already thrown 5 million doses in the garbage. We've heard from infectious disease specialists that their mandates are saving 0 lives. They're ineffective. They're political in their entirety. Dr. Tam last night said they won't do away with mandates because they'll be too hard to force upon Canadians later. Does that sound like medical science to anyone? The Prime Minister won't give up his control over Canadians because they won't let him take it from them again. Enough is enough. When will this Prime Minister end the mandates?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives can't seem to make up their minds about vaccinations. The member from Yorkton Melville claims that the government has a secret agenda after refusing to get vaccinated. This type of rhetoric is divisive, and all members of this House should stop trying to spread.
I'm just going to interrupt. We started off really well, but it seems to have gone downhill, so I just want to make sure everybody can hear the answer that's being given. The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes asked a question. I'm sure he wants to hear the answer. The honourable parliamentary secretary, please, from the top.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives just can't seem to make up their minds about vaccinations. A year ago, they were saying we would never have enough vaccinations to get every Canadian vaccinated, yet lo and behold, we have gotten many vaccinations in the arms of Canadians. But the member from Yorkton Melville claims the government has some kind of secret agenda after refusing to get vaccinated herself. Her colleague, the Conservative MP from Niagara West, has talked about banning our mRNA vaccines in Canada. That's the same vaccine that has saved millions and millions of lives. Mr. Speaker, the science is clear. Vaccines are safe and effective in reducing the spread of COVID-19 as well as reducing severe cases, hospitalizations, and death. When will the Conservatives get on board and encourage their constituents to get vaccinated?
The honourable member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Mr. Speaker, an RV dealer in Kelowna Lake Country, a boat dealer in BC, as well as their respective national industry organizations, all tell me that the normal delivery times for an RV, boat, or their parts from the U.S. have gone from 2 weeks to up to 4 months, and they will lose their summer sales season. They all said it's because of the federal border vaccine mandates affecting drivers that continues to hurt their small businesses. When will the Liberals wake up from their 2020 policies and remove these out-of-date, unscientific, unjustified vaccine mandates that are killing small business?
The honourable parliamentary secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All Canadians are sick and tired of COVID-19. We all want to get back to normal, but just wishing away or ignoring COVID-19 is simply not going to work. Over the past few months, we continue to see more deaths from COVID-19. In fact, 10,000 deaths in 2022 alone. The most important thing that we can do to get through this pandemic is continue to ask Canadians to go and get a third dose and remain vigilant. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary-Midnapore.
The EU and the US have dropped their mandates, while Canadian travellers still have to provide proof of vaccination, wear masks, and be subject to random testing. Canadians want to travel again, but the backlogs created by these now unnecessary restrictions have gotten so extensive that Air Canada had to cancel 360 flights in 1 week through Toronto's Pearson Airport. So when will the government finally focus on economic recovery and lift these out-of-date, punitive travel mandates?
The honourable parliamentary secretary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And let me first start by thanking our healthcare workers who have sacrificed so much over the last couple of years. They've spent 2 years on the front lines to protect us all, and one of the best ways that we can support them and ensure that they stay safe is continue to encourage our constituents to get vaccinated. Vaccines remain an important tool in stopping the spread of COVID-19 and variants, and as the federal government, we will keep doing everything that we can to support Canadians and keep them safe, which includes encouraging them to get vaccinated. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Avignon, Amitis Matan Matapedia. Mr. Speaker, Quebec has had a carbon market with California since 2014. Yesterday, the Environment Minister was in California, but not to announce that he'll force high-emitting sectors to join the carbon market. No, he announced that the federal government would create its own version of a market, a system without a cap on emissions, which will allow businesses to trade emissions without making a real drop in their GHG emissions. In a cap-and-trade emission system, the cap part is not optional. Why did the minister create a permit to pollute? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, establishing a federal carbon offset market is a win-win for the economy and the environment. Starting with landfills, we're putting in place a market-based mechanism to incentivize businesses and municipalities to invest in technologies and innovations that cut pollution. Over the coming year, we will roll out more offset protocols for activities in other sectors, such as forestry and agriculture. This is good for the economy and good for the environment, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Avignon, Amitis Matan Matapedia. Mr. Speaker, it's a win-win for the oil sector. What they're creating isn't a carbon market. It's giving the oil company the possibility to continue polluting while buying compensatory credits, which will give the false impression that their emissions are going down. It's smoke and mirrors, and that's what Greenpeace thinks as well. According to Greenpeace, the compensation will not prevent carbon from entering the atmosphere and from warming the planet, but on paper, it makes the big polluters look more responsible. Mr. Speaker, why is the minister creating an eco-whitewashing system instead of encouraging a real carbon market?
Secretary.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thanks to the honourable member for the question. And just to remind her, we're working on many fronts to reduce fossil fuel emissions. We're capping emissions from the oil and gas sector. We're implementing a robust, clean fuel standard. And yes, we're creating a carbon offset market, as well as phasing out inefficient fossil fuel subsidies by 2023, 2 years ahead of schedule, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Avignon, Amitis Matan Matapedia. Mr. Speaker, let's look at what the Environment Minister has done over the last year. He authorized $2.6 billion in additional subsidies to the oil and gas sector. That's his key climate change contribution to the recent budget. He approved the Bay du Nord project and its billion barrels of oil. And now he's created a system to allow the oil companies to keep polluting while buying credits that will greenwash their GHG emission statistics. And despite all this, he calls himself an environmental activist. Wow, next he'll have us all drinking oil. Mr. Speaker, is the Minister of the Environment taking us for fools?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And perhaps I should remind the honourable member of the emissions reduction plan. The minister introduced just a few weeks ago a very practical roadmap to fight climate change as we build a clean economy. Here are some of the really, really important and exciting measures, Mr. Speaker. Incentives and infrastructure for electric vehicles, energy retrofits for greener homes and buildings, capping oil and gas emissions, and of course, supporting our farmers for more sustainable agriculture. We're acting, Mr. Speaker. We're acting very, very prominently.
Honourable Member for Desnete, Mississippi, Churchill River.
Mr. Speaker, the cost of living in northern Saskatchewan has never been so high. Gas at over $2 a litre, and the ever-rising carbon tax has led to unprecedented freight costs. In Black Lake, Hatchet Lake, and Fond du Lac, 4 litres of milk can cost nearly $14. A dozen eggs, $9. A kilogram of apples, $12. Everyone in Desnete, Mississippi, Churchill River is suffering from these record price increases. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals and the NDP continue to vote against conservative measures that would provide relief. Why?
That's right. Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we understand that affordability matters for Canadians, and we absolutely understand that Canadians living in rural and northern communities face particular challenges. And that's why our government has taken action and is providing support that is arriving to Canadians right now. Let me talk about the Canada Workers' Benefit. We have increased it by $9 billion over 5 years. The first increased support arrived This April, it is providing a family with three of up to $2,300. There are minimum wage workers in northern Saskatchewan, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies.
Mr. Speaker, 1,300 workers in Nunavut may soon be out of a job because this government refuses to act. Baffinland Iron Mines Corp. recently requested an emergency order to allow it to continue to ship 6 million tons of iron ore for 2022. The Minister of Northern Affairs denied the request. Why is this government forcing these workers out of a job?
The Honourable Minister.
Speaker, our government supports a strong resource development sector that is sustainable, creates jobs for Northerners and Indigenous peoples, and respects the environment. Last week, I spoke to the leadership of the Baffinland Mines, as well as the Kikitani Inuit Association, about this issue. I'm happy to encourage they are both at the table to address outstanding issues and work towards an outcome that benefits both parties. Working together with all parties is the only way this issue will get resolved.
Honourable member for Bay of Quinte.
Mr. Speaker, Canada's skilled labour shortages has reached over 1 million jobs vacant. The shortage of labour is costing our economy $30 billion and driving inflation. The government is focused on growing government, adding 61,000 federal positions since 2015. But Canadian businesses can't find home builders, factory workers, and truckers, costing Canadians more in food, housing, and goods, as lack of employees further chokes the economy and spikes inflation. When will the government put as much energy into filling Canadian vacant jobs as it is into growing its own bloated government?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to place the response to this question in the appropriate economic context, and I'd like to remind the honourable member that to date Canada has seen 115% of the jobs lost during the pandemic return. Our GDP is ahead of pre-pandemic levels, and Mr. Speaker, we're at the lowest rate of unemployment in recorded history in Canada. At the same time, we're going to launch a number of measures to continue to recruit new workers, including through immigration. I'm pleased to share with this House that as of today, Canada will welcome its 200,000th permanent resident this year, more than a month and a half faster than any year in the history of Canada. We're going to continue to use every tool at our disposal to fill the gaps in the labour force and grow our economy.
The honourable member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, as the cost of living skyrockets, the Liberal government is abandoning families who are increasingly relying on food banks to feed their kids. Worse, while families are struggling, the PBO found that the Liberals cut the Canada Child Benefit. Families' budgets are already stretched, and the Liberals are making it even harder for them by cutting the amount they currently receive. This is shameful. Why are the Liberals shortchanging families while they're already struggling to feed their kids?
The Honourable Minister for Families.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Government of Canada is committed to giving families more money to help with the high cost of raising their kids and to making a real difference in the lives of our children. That is why, in 2016, the government introduced the Canada Child Benefit to provide increased support for low to middle income families with children. The Canada Child Benefit is tax-free and based on income, so it provides more support to families who need it the most. The Canada Child Benefit provides support to over 3.5 million families, including over 6 million children, putting more than $25 billion tax-free into the pockets of Canadian families. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians want bold action that matches the scale and urgency of the climate crisis. But the Liberals are going about business as usual, failing to secure a livable future. This is the existential threat of our time, and we need a response not seen since the Second World War. The U.S. just announced they will use their Defense Production Act to build solar panels and heat pumps. Canada has a Defense Production Act that could be used to fight the climate crisis and create good, long-term jobs. We are in a climate emergency. When will this government start acting like it?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the honorable member for her advocacy and her good work on the Environment Committee, and just remind her that we have a very robust emissions reduction plan that is a ambitious sector-by-sector pathway for Canada to reach our 2030 emission reductions on our way to 2050 net zero. This has broad support from environmental groups to industry to farmers. And Mr. Speaker, Canadians want us to deliver clean air, a healthy environment, and a strong economy. And that's exactly what we're going to do, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member for Vaudreuil-Soulanges. Mr. Speaker, climate change is the greatest long-term threat we face as a global community. As the country's largest asset owner and public purchaser, can the President of the Treasury Board explain how the Government of Canada is doing its part to green its own operations? The Honourable President of the Treasury Board. Mr. Speaker, allow me to begin by thanking the member for Vaudreuil-Soulanges for his important work and his important question. The federal government is leading the way in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. How? By adopting low-carbon solutions for our buildings and fleets, using sustainable products, reducing the use of single-use plastics, and purchasing greener energy. Mr. Speaker, together we will reduce emissions from federal operations by 90% by the year 2050. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Mr. Speaker, after 4 years, Canadians are learning about a settlement between a young woman and HoC Canada. The victim states that she was repeatedly assaulted in a hotel room in London, Ontario in 2018. We are hearing that HoC Canada settled out of court in response to the accusations against 8 CHL players. We had a chance to discuss this yesterday in Heritage Committee, but the government members refused. Why is this government minimizing this type of violence?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, like all Canadians, I'm disgusted and horrified by this situation. I want to make sure that no public funds were spent to cover up such actions. This is why I have ordered a financial audit to get to the bottom of this. HoC Canada must explain why, despite these egregious actions, these players were in no way held accountable for their actions. Why did they face no consequences and continue on to a professional career? The culture of silence in sport and in society has been in place for too long, and it must stop, and it will stop.
The honourable member for Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Thank you very much. We know that HoC Canada is a recipient of the federal funding, and although we support athletes and coaches, we recognize the importance of these investments, but there must be accountability. HoC Canada paid money for these perpetrators' bad behaviour. Who is being held accountable? If the Liberals really cared about women and children, they would have made this a priority at committee. The Liberals claim to be feminists, then why didn't they prioritize this in committee?
L'honorable ministre.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, like all Canadians, I was disgusted by this situation. I want to make certain that no public funds were spent to hide this type of behavior. That's why I called for a financial audit to shed light on the situation. They will have to explain why this was allowed to happen with impunity, and players were allowed to continue their rise to the professional leagues despite this scandalous behavior. The culture of silence must end and will end. But using this story to block Bill C-11 in committee is unacceptable.
Honorable député de Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles.
The honourable member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, once again, in the east of Montreal last night, there was another shooting. A citizen of Rivière-des-Prairies was sitting on her porch and had to run back into her house to hide. Now, the Prime Minister's proposed Bill C-5 would eliminate a number of mandatory minimum sentences, for example, for gun crimes like discharging a firearm with intent. The Prime Minister says C-5 has nothing to do with violent crime. Does he not consider discharging a firearm with intent a serious crime? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, it's absolutely unacceptable to see the amount of gun violence that we've seen. That's exactly why we introduced Bill C-21. We need to see the Conservatives stop using all of these dilatory measures, all of this obstruction, so that we can better protect Canadians and Quebecers. There are a lot of good measures, very common sense measures in our bill, and we need to get it passed so we can protect all Canadians. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Minister talks about C-21. I'm talking about C-5. Currently, gang crime in the streets of Montreal is skyrocketing. People are walking around with their guns. They're showing their guns openly. They're not even afraid because the message that they're getting from the Liberal government is there's no problem here. You can commit a gun crime and there won't be any mandatory minimum. Here I'm talking about C-5. Why are we trying to pass C-5 when we see this increase in violence in the streets of Montreal? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Justice system that makes sure serious crimes come with serious penalties, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're increasing the maximum penalties for certain gun offences from 10 to 14 years. That means we're allowing judges to impose longer sentences on serious criminals that endanger our communities. Based on what we're hearing from the Conservatives, they will vote against Bill C-21 and against longer sentences for those criminals. We're taking a responsible approach to keeping our communities safe, Mr. Speaker. The same cannot be said of the Conservative Party.
Excellent work.
The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, without waiting for Ottawa's go-ahead, Quebec has just offered $6.2 million to the Akwesasne Mohawk Police to patrol the St. Lawrence 24/7 against gun trafficking. And it's a good thing Quebec didn't wait, because Quebec's Minister of Public Safety told us today that she still hasn't received a penny of the money that Ottawa promised. She said, "I'm still waiting for the federal government to sign the agreement where they promised money to fund our police forces and help fight gun violence. I repeat my call to the minister." End of quote. Mr. Speaker, where's the money? Le Ministre. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the government already invested $350 million to fight violence caused by organized crime. We already transferred around $50 million to help and support these efforts. I have an open line of collaboration with my counterparts. We're going to continue working with them, but at the same time, we need to start debate on Bill C-21 to better protect Canadians and Quebecers, and I hope we'll do so with the Bloc's support. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, again, yesterday there were 3 shootings in Montreal in less than 6 hours, and the Quebec government says it still hasn't received the money Ottawa promised to fight gun violence. Quebec is making an effort, for example, by announcing a special patrol against gun trafficking in Akwesasne. But Ottawa isn't giving Quebec the money it promised. It's embarrassing. When will the government finally transfer the promised money to Quebec? We're having a problem with weapons in Montreal now. Not one day, not maybe, not in a year, not when pigs fly. Now, Mr. Speaker. L'Honorable Ministre. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I want to reassure my colleague and all members in this House that we are in contact with my counterpart, Minister Guilbeault, to help prevent firearms violence. And I hope that with the support of the Bloc and all members in this House, we will be able to start debate on Bill C-21. It contains a lot of concrete measures to help this community. Thank you.
For Calgary Centre.
Well, Mr. Speaker, a constituent of mine, Jarlene, applied for permanent residence and work permit under the caregiver category in April 2020, over 2 years ago. But IRCC stopped all caregiver applications as they were not urgent. Now, 6 months pregnant and diagnosed with a serious medical condition that may impact her health and that of her child, she has no health care coverage because of this government's gross mismanagement of immigration. Will the minister help Jarlene and others who have come to Canada for a better life?
Good question.
Good question.
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for his question and for his sincere concern for his constituents. With respect to caregiver programs, last year, more than 4,000 permanent residents were welcomed to Canada through caregiver streams. We anticipate this year the number will be 6,000. As I shared earlier in response to a separate question this afternoon, we are actually processing people for permanent residency faster than at any point in the history of Canada, with today being the day that 200,000 new permanent residents will be welcomed to Canada. I look forward to taking further questions in private after question period if the honourable member wishes to discuss specific case files. Thank you.
Honourable member for York Simcoe.
Mr. Speaker, it's not just passports and airports. This government is dropping the ball everywhere. Canadian pilots have been waiting over a year for Transport Canada to approve their Category 1 medical exams. Without these medicals, aspiring pilots can't continue their training, existing pilots can't get relicensed, and pilots on leave can't return to work. Delays in inaction under the Liberals is grounding pilots and hurting our economy despite the growing need for more commercial pilots. When will these backlogs be cleared so pilots can get back in the air and back to work?
Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my honourable colleague for his question, and I share his frustration. I know that there are many pilots waiting for their medical examination, and Transport Canada has been putting in place new measures to expedite these applications. Our government is responding to the surge in demand for these certificates. We have put corrective actions to ensure that we expedite these applications. If the honourable member has a particular case that he'd like to bring up to my attention, I'll be happy to work with him on it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Fort McMurray Cold Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Passport Canada's website was recently updated, doubling the normal processing times for passports to over 2 months plus time for mail. So my question to the minister is very simple. Is 9 weeks plus an acceptable timeline for this most basic of government services?
Good question. Full Minister for Families.
Mr. Speaker, as I've explained to this House before, we're experiencing unprecedented volumes when it comes to passports. It's important for us to share this information with Canadians so that they can plan accordingly. We know that this is frustrating and that this is stressful for them, but ensuring that we provide transparent information is important. When it comes to international comparisons, Mr. Speaker, when we look at countries like the US, the UK, Australia, they're on average processing passports between 9 and 11 weeks. In Sweden, it's a wait time of almost 27 weeks. Mr. Speaker, this is something that's happening around the world, but we're putting additional resources in place to deal with it here in Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, we know that around the world, including here in Canada, supply chains are facing disruptions due to global COVID-19 pandemic, climate change, and Russia's brutal and unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. Can the Minister of Transport tell this House what the government is doing to strengthen Canadian supply chains and make sure Canadians have access to the essential goods they require?
Honourable Minister of Transport.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my colleague for her important and timely question. And as my colleague accurately stated, global and domestic supply chains are under pressure, and our government is taking action, Mr. Speaker. Budget 2022 has announced significant investment to strengthen supply chains infrastructure. I'm also pleased to let my honourable colleagues know that we've established a supply chain task force that will provide our government with additional advice and recommendations. This task force is made up of experts and industry leaders, and I want to thank them for agreeing to join this task force and for their service to their country. Mr. Speaker, I look forward to working with them to make our supply chains even stronger.
Honourable member for Foothills.
The Liberals' front-of-pack warning labels on ground beef and pork, something that no other country in the world is doing, put our food security and our vulnerable supply chain at risk. Grocery costs are up 10%. Almost a quarter of Canadian families are skipping meals because they can't afford food. But the Liberals want to put a $2 billion bureaucratic burden on a wholesome protein, making the food affordable crisis even worse. So the question is these misleading, unnecessary warning labels on a single ingredient, wholesome food really worth the crippling cost to Canadian farmers, businesses, and most importantly, consumers?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Our government is concerned about the critically high rates of chronic disease in Canada. Across the country, 2 in 5 adults report having at least one of the 10 most common chronic illnesses, including cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes. Poor diets, including those that are really high in saturated fat, sugars, and sodium, are a primary risk for those diseases. Mr. Speaker, that is unacceptable. Canadians deserve more information. Nutrient-specific, high-in front-of-package labels will allow Canadians to quickly and easily identify identify foods that are high in these nutrients of public health concern and to make a more informed and educated and healthier food choices when at the grocery store. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, Canada will become the only jurisdiction in the world to require warning labels on the front of packages of ground beef and ground pork. These are single-ingredient products we're talking about here. This government continues to add bureaucratic burdens that hurt our ability to compete on the world stage. What is the basis for the government's decision here? And when will they abandon this ridiculous regulation? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Contrary to the members across the way, our government is concerned by the extremely high rates of chronic disease in Canada. 2 out of 5 adults suffer from one of 10 chronic diseases, the most common being cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes. Poor diet, notably diets high in sugar, sodium, and fat, are a main risk factor for these diseases. That's unacceptable, Mr. Speaker. Nutritional labeling on the front of packaging will allow Canadians to quickly identify those risks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The utterly nonsensical proposal for front-of-package labeling on ground beef and pork is another attack on our agricultural industry. Canada would be the first country to do this, despite already exempting other single-ingredient whole food products like dairy. Bureaucratic red tape is once again standing in the way of Canadian ag production. Can the Minister of Health justify to Canadians, or is Health Canada intent in killing off Canadian ag industry?
Well, Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Us on this side, we believe that more information for consumers is always a good thing. These labels are widely recognized by health organizations and the scientific community as an effective tool to help counteract rising rates of diet-related chronic disease that continue to rise in Canada. During our engagements with industry stakeholders, health experts, and Canadians across the country, Health Canada analyzed the feedback received and made adjustments to the proposal where supported by science. Mr. Speaker, our government will always prioritize health policies based on scientific evidence. And let me be clear, Canadians, they'll still produce and purchase ground meat. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kitchener-Conestoga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, seniors in my riding of Kitchener-Conestoga have worked very hard and helped shape this country. I'm hearing from more and more seniors that they would like to stay at home and in their communities for as long as possible. Many vulnerable seniors are often forced to transition to residence and long-term care homes that they need to due to the lack of services. Can the Minister of Seniors please update this House on the important work the government is doing to support seniors who wish to age at home? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my colleague from Kitchener-Conestoga for his question and for his advocacy for seniors. Mr. Speaker, we know Canadian seniors want to age in their own homes and communities for as long as possible, and that's why I was pleased to announce yesterday that our government is investing $90 million over 3 years through our Age Well at Home initiative, which will provide eligible organizations up to $2 million per project through one of its 2 streams. Organizations will be able to apply through our online portal until July 22nd, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, rest assured, our government will always be there for seniors, particularly those most vulnerable. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Churchill, Kewetnook-Askey.
Mr. Speaker, Poplar River First Nation, which has no all-weather road, depends on a barge in the summer to bring in essential goods and for the fishery, their economic engine. The engine on this barge literally blew up, leaving the community stranded. The First Nation has declared a state of emergency. They have called for immediate help from all levels of government. Poplar River needs help now. Will the Minister of Indigenous Services meet with the Chief ASAP and provide the immediate assistance that the community, including fishers, are asking for now?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member opposite for advocating for Poplar River First Nation. And I will say this, the department is working with the community, has provided services and alternative means to get services and supplies to the community. We are working with the community to look at alternatives in terms of replacing the barge, and I will always meet with any chief that wishes to at a time that works for both of us.
The honourable member for Kitchener Centre.
Mr. Speaker, we are facing a housing crisis in this country, and my community is reeling. 53 people have resorted to pitching tents on publicly owned land in downtown Kitchener, but they're being evicted at the end of the month. They're among the 412 people we know are unsheltered in Waterloo Region. Municipal leaders have been sounding the alarm for years, asking for more targeted housing funding and urgent mental health and addiction support. If the Minister of Housing were to visit this encampment, what would he say to those living in tents who've been left behind by decades of unjust housing policies?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
Whenever a Canadian finds themselves on the street, it diminishes us all. And we have invested over $562 million to the federal Reaching Home program, which targets the most vulnerable Canadians on the street. And in addition to that, during the pandemic, we invested another $400 million. We're giving stability and certainty to frontline organizations serving the most vulnerable. And through the Rapid Housing Initiative, as well as the Co-op Housing Program, we're providing permanent housing solutions to house the most vulnerable people in our community. Thank you very much.
I'm afraid that's all the time we have for question period today. I wish to draw the attention of members to the presence in the gallery of the Honourable Mike Farnworth, Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General for the province of British Columbia, and the Honourable Josie Osborne, the Minister of Land, Water and Resource Stewardship and the Minister responsible for fisheries for the province of British Columbia. There we go. I believe the honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul is rising on a point of order.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. There has been consultation. I believe you will find the unanimous consent of the House for the following: that given the debate on combating gun violence needs to be depoliticized, centered on the rights of victims and the safeties of communities, the House call on the government to divide Bill C-21 and Act to amend certain acts.
I'm getting a lot of no's, and what I've been getting a lot of feedback from members of both sides on unanimous consent motions is normally I encourage you to maybe just talk to people beforehand and make sure you have that unanimous consent before bringing it forward for all members. I'm not pointing out anyone in particular, and because we don't want to cut anybody off when they're trying to get a point across or trying to get that unanimous consent. So I don't believe we have unanimous consent. I'm sorry. Point of order, the honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wonder if you could just clarify the process. Is it your ruling that going forward, if a member is saying no, you will stop the reading of the motion? Because I think we've had cases where some members have been saying no, and yet members have continued with a lengthy unanimous consent motion.
So the feedback I've been getting from both sides, both government and opposition members, is asking for that exact that type of behavior, where rather than let it all go through, because I mean sometimes unanimous consent motions are used as a method of getting messages across, and that's what SO 31s are for. So we just shift everything over and we can use it that way. We will do our best to make that happen.
It being 3:10, pursuant to the order made on Thursday, November 25, 2021, the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the sub-amendment of Mr. Albus on the amendment to the motion at third reading of Bill C-19.
La question est la suivante.
The question is the following one.
Chiamwa.
Oh, that's fine. It's already moved.
Okay, very good. Ms. Freeland, seconded by Ms. Gould, move that Bill C-19, an act to implement certain provisions of the budget tabled in Parliament on April 7th, 2022, and other measures, be now read a third time and do pass. Mr. Albus, seconded by Monsieur Deltel, moved that the following amendment, that the motion be amended by deleting all the words after the word that